the war goes on and the children die of hunger and the old men weep, for the young men are no more, and the women learn how to dance without a partner who will keep the score. If the war goes on and the truth is taken hostage and new terrors lead to the need to euphemize, when the calls for peace are declared unpatriotic, who'll expose the lies? If the war goes on and the daily bread is tearing and the voiceless poor take the road as refugees, when the nation's pride destines millions to be homeless, who will heed their pleas? If the war goes on and the rich increase their fortunes and the armed sell sore as new weapons are displayed, when a fertile field turns to no man's land tomorrow, who'll approve such trade? If the war goes on.
Hey, First Pres, today is Ash Wednesday, and I just want to share a few thoughts that will help guide us as a community. Ash Wednesday has a couple pieces to it. It stems from Genesis 3:19, where God says, hey, from dust you came, and dust you will return. That's why if we were together, we would have ashes that are kind of made from the palms of Palm Sunday, and we would wipe a cross on a forehead, and we'd say, from dust you came, to dust you will return. And symbolically, what we remember here on Ash Wednesday is that both you and I are mortal. There is no way to escape death. All of us will die. And it should cause us in the middle of that to think about how we are living today. It should cause us to think about how every second is precious. It should cause us to think about that one day we will die, and then that will start another chapter to be with kind of God forever in all the versions that we can imagine that. It should cause us to think about the reality that we are created and not the creator, and that everything is a gift. From dust you came, to dust you will return. And so we should hold every second precious. But Ash Wednesday also has a second place, and it kicks off this season of Lent. And I want to talk a bit more deeply about that. And I really want to encourage us. We have been talking about and kind of living into this Vision 2022, this idea that we want to be at the end of the year healthy, physically healthy, spiritually healthy, financially healthy as a church community, and emotionally healthy. And we want to handle all of these transitions well. The other day while we were in a staff meeting, a good friend of mine said something that really grabbed me. That really, I was like the Holy Spirit just speaking directly to us. She said, Jake, I'm here for it, and I understand it. And one of our pieces of emotionally healthy was creating space to grieve transitions and creating space to grieve the loss of what feels like normal in our church community. And what she said that resonated with me, and I think resonated with all of us, was Jake, I hear it. Like, this is about your transition and all the transitions and creating space to grieve those. But really, my family and I just aren't doing okay. And when she said that, I realized I'm not doing okay. Joan's not doing okay. All of us are not doing okay. You know, as we head into March of 2022, we reflect back, and it was March 8th, 2020 was the last time that we gathered as a faith community together in the sanctuary in a what would be now known as normal. It has been 2 years. On March 13th was the last day that kids went to school in the same way. They're still going to school differently. And over the last 2 years, all of us have lost someone. We have lost jobs, we have lost normalcy, we have lost relationships. Like, our relationships, at least for me, that were the consistent, every day I saw people, rhythms of life before the pandemic are different now. Some people took, we weren't able to see them because their kids had massive health issues and they had to be ultra protective. And we haven't seen them in the same way in years. All of us, if we're listening to this as we sit in our couches and in our computers or on our phones while we're traveling in a car, we're not okay. Personally, emotionally. And so when we start this next season, Ash Wednesday is this place of beginning Lent. And in Lent, we're meant to kind of, in this kind of Old Testament biblical way, like rip off clothes and cry and grieve and shout and hit something and throw something and, in a lot of ways be covered in ashes. That's what Lent is. The season before Easter, where we recognize that we're all mortal. And nothing has made that more clear than COVID. Family, we need to do some time in this next season to lament all that was personally lost over the last 2 years. To lament relationships that were different, to cry and grieve about lost school for our kids in all the different ways that took place, to cry and grieve that so many of us, I think it's like, we were just watching the Olympics and there was the woman who I think finished cross-country skiing, or maybe it was the biathlon, and as she finished, she just collapsed on the finish line. And she was going in between blacking out and coming back, and when they had a chance to talk to her, she said it was the hardest race that she had ever raced. Wind, cold, storms. Family, the last 2 years have been the hardest season that I have ever faced. Many of you might be older and there's other seasons that felt similar, but for me, and for people I think younger than me, this has been the hardest season we have ever faced, and we are not okay. From dust we came, to dust we will return. It is true, we are mortal and we are not superhuman. And so my encouragement for us is a couple-fold as we go from here. One, we're not going to get a chance to be together to spread ashes. But as you go out your door, out your car door, out into the world, just look at the ground. Any dirt will work. And I'm not going to ask you to rub it on your own forehead. Just look at it. Maybe hold it in your hand and recognize that one day, somehow, some way, you are going to return to that dirt. And then ask yourself, how am I living today? And I hope as part of that, how am I living today, is that we are doing the work. We're finishing in some way, shape, and form. I know COVID and the pandemic has changed to an endemic and we don't quite know, but I think for many of us, it feels like we can let up, like a finish line is in sight. And I'm going to encourage you to collapse, to just fall in a pile, to do whatever you need to do to recover from the last 2 years. All of us should find our way into some version of therapy, some version of spiritual direction, some version of slowing down You have been running and surviving and trying to figure out the next thing for 2 years. And if we want to be healthy, Vision 2022, emotionally, at the end of the year, we can't handle the transitions in our church, and we can't handle the transitions in leadership, and we can't handle creating space to grieve for all that until we've created space to grieve for ourselves, for loss of life, relationships, job, normalcy, connection, family, hugs, all of it. So take each moment as sacred this Ash Wednesday. Find some dirt. And then let's collectively do the work to take care of each other, to cry, to lament, to grieve, to yell, to scream, to do Lent, and not waste it. And not just think it's going to get better all of a sudden without some work. Because it's not. And I believe we can do that together. And I'm looking forward as we begin our Lent season to creating spaces for you and for me to do that grieving and that crying out. Because goodness knows every moment is sacred on Ash Wednesday. Because from dust we came, and to that dirt you will return. I don't want to waste them with you. I don't want you to waste those moments with me. Let's do the work to get healthy this Lent season. To cry if we need to, pray if we need to, be mad if we need to. And let's see what God does in that. Love you all. From dust you came, to dust you will return.
Cuando el pobre nada tiene y aún reparte. Cuando un hombre pasa sed y agua nos da. Cuando el débil a su hermano fortalece. Va Dios mismo en nuestro mismo caminar. Va Dios mismo en nuestro mismo caminar. When compassion gives the suffering consolation, when expecting to try.